Hello,
Hi, a big hello from Sugar and.
Spice.
So, how have you guys been? It's been such a long time, right, Giti?
Absolutely, yes.
And we've caught you before the Valentine month ends, So, we are here with two lovely love stories, two stories which are extremely different from one another, right, Giti?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
so.
just waiting to get back with you all with stories. As you all have been waiting as well, we hope, right?
Yeah, they have. We have been listening to. We have a lot of you asking us why we haven't been ready with stories for a while. So here we are.
We've been getting quite a few views also on our videos past few
Thank
days.
you
Yes.
for listening to us, appreciating, and for your feedback. So we are here with two more, and today Deepthi will begin with the first one. So over to you, Deepthi.
So my story is a classic love story. It is something, we have heard over and over again being mentioned in movies, in Hindi movies, Shrija.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and in songs, even the different elements of this story you will see in lots of the romantic songs and things.
I think the names are by themselves so
Yes.
poetic, so beautiful.
Synonymous with love.
Yes.
So it is the eternal love story of Heer Ranjha. So this story is from Punjab, the land of five rivers, if you can call it. And Chenab is one of them. Chenab is one of the rivers which used to flow through Punjab, over many centuries ago. It was flowing through Punjab apparently. And the story begins in a town called Takht Hazara in Punjab, in the district of Sargodha. This was where Ranjha, our hero, was born. He was born as the son of Moju Chaudhary, the youngest of 8 sons. He had 8 sons, and all his elder brothers, he grew up to be a very handsome young man. And all his elder brothers, all of Ranjha's elder brothers were married. They, all the sister-in-laws were at home. But Ranjha was a little different. As I said, he was a very soft, soft-spoken, good-looking young man. And he was very soft in his ways as well. He was not the kind who would go, work in the farm as his brothers did. But his father, loved him so much, and he very openly showed his affection towards him, a little more than the other sons. So he actually taught him to play the flute from a very young age, and he actually acquired a mastery over it. He used to play the flute beautifully, similar to what we have heard about Lord Krishna. They used to say that even the nature was enchanted by the way he played his flute. So this was all that he loved to do. And, until Moju Chaudhary was alive, the sister-in-laws would, crib about this habit of Ranjha, that he's not going to the farm, he's not working along with his brothers, but he's just happily having free food. So they would not openly say it, of course, for fear of their father-in-law. But once Moju Chaudhary got unwell and he, on a certain day he passed away, from that day onwards things changed. The sister-in-law started openly, taunting him and making fun of him, to the day, they would actually, while he was sitting down for food, they would taunt him and say that, very nice, you just play the flute and just roam around the place and you can have a free meal, you're enjoying your life, right? Unlike, you look at your brothers, how much hard work they are doing and all those things. So he would find it he was not a person who would retaliate or talk back. He would just silently, feel bad, and he would just walk up. He would stop eating and he would just go. So this kept going on for a few days, and one day, one of the sister-in-laws said, "You think you're very handsome, you think you're, the most eligible bachelor in town. You know what? There's a nearby village called Sial, and there's this beautiful maiden over there. Everybody talks about Sial's Heer. Heer means diamond, and everyone, all of us have heard stories about her beauty and how charming she is. If you're really that charming a man, Go and find her, get her fall in love with you and bring her as your bride. We will listen to you. Then we will, admit how great you are. Otherwise, you are just worthless. So this was like a challenge, what he heard, and he was hearing this name also for the first time. From that day, it just stuck in his mind, and he decided that Takht Hazara was not my place anymore. This place is not going to feed me anymore. I better get out of this town. I'll do something. I'll find my own way. And he left. At the back of his mind, his motive was, let me find Heer. Who is this? So he leaves. Of course, his destination is very clear in his mind. His destination was the city or the town of Jhang. It was a little far away, and he set out for Jhang. And once he reached there, he decided that he will do some odd jobs and survive. He will find his living for the first few days, at least, till he finds the love of his life, because that was his only motive. So he was working there, and then soon the people who were attracted, the women who started somehow, they saw this new person at the mosque helping the Maulvi with all the chores and everything, and slowly, they would tell it to their friends, and they would start sneaking their way near the mosque and looking at this handsome fellow. So after a few days, there was this girl who actually fell in love with him. And she went home and she said, I am going to marry only this new, the helper of Maulvi who is there at the mosque. I have fallen in love with him. I will not marry anybody else other than him. And actually, those people they came and they beat him up and all that. And Ranja was like totally, he was surprised. He didn't know what to do. And he understood that if I stay here anymore, it's going to bring me more trouble. So he fled. He flees that very night. He leaves that mosque, and then he's moving on. He's trying to find something else where he reaches a place where he has to cross the river, and there is this boatman is there, and he says, I need to go to the other side of the river. The boatman says, you have money with you? No, I don't have money with me. So he was, meanwhile, while he was waiting for the boat, he was actually playing his flute. So while the boat was coming closer to the shore, all the passengers were already, mesmerized by his flute playing, and they were all like, could you please play the flute again? So he was like, what? Yeah, 1 minute, I'm trying to negotiate with the boatman. So the boatman says, sorry, I can't take you if you don't have money. And all the passengers pleaded to him, please take him. He's such a beautiful artist, how can you say no to him? You look at his face. He's so handsome and he is so talented. How can you ever, it was just like the charm of, it keeps, reminding me of Krishna. The charm, they just couldn't resist, and they all pleaded to the boatman, we will pay for him. Just for him to play the flute, we are ready to pay. So please take him to the other side. And he goes, and on the other side of the shore, of the river, on the shore, there was this place for resting, and there was this special bed. And by then Ranja was so tired. He asked the boat person who was there, can I take rest here for a while? Who's this bed for? Who uses this bed? He said, no, you can't sleep on this bed. You know what? This is Meher Chuchak's boat. Everything, the entire, the place belongs to Meher Chuchak. And there is this lovely daughter of his. He didn't mention the name, of course. He said Meher Chuchak's daughter is there and her friends. They come here for a, stride. They want to go in the boat. So whenever they want to rest, they use this bed. She uses it as all hers. I cannot allow you to sleep. Then again, he begged and he spoke to him. And he allows, finally, Ranja goes to sleep on that bed of Heer. It was actually Meher Chuchak's daughter was none other than the person he was searching. It was Heer, and after some time Heer actually reached there with her friends just to find a stranger sleeping on her bed. And And she was at first furious. She asked the boatman, "How dare you allow somebody to sleep on my bed? You know when I come, I use it." And then she goes and calls him, "Hello, mister, whoever you are, please get up. This is my bed. How dare you use it?" The moment he gets up and he looks innocently at her, that moment was life-changing for Heer as well. Instantly she falls in love with him, like anything. And her tone changes. She's like, "Who are you? What are you?" And then she makes her friends go away, and they both sit there and talk for hours. And that itself, the very first meeting, it was as if, it was just, the destiny was just bringing them together. It was just a matter of meeting. They were already, souls who were always together, meant to be together. And they sat there and they spoke for hours and hours, just, about anything and everything. And by the end of that meeting, they had decided, like you say, a very classic example of love at first sight. For him, he had already fallen in love with her inside, but meeting her, all the more, And then after that first meeting, they decided that he's going to stay back there. Whatever happens, he's going to win her hand, get married to her. So for that, he had to first get into the household somehow. So she said, "Don't worry, I'll find a way out. My father has some buffaloes and he's looking for a helper to take care of them. Whatever it takes, it'll be a little hard work for you, but it's okay. You come and, somehow try to get into the confidence of my parents." Then he follows the same thing. He starts working for Meher Chuchak, who was Heer's father. And then this goes on. Again, the buffaloes were enchanted. They were like so mesmerized. It was magic.
He played for them.
Yeah, he used to play a flute for them, and they were like, they had never had a person to take care of them like that. And everything was going very well, and actually prosperity increased in their family and household, and he became like a member of the family. Until there was somebody in the family who was starting to get very jealous of Ranja. That was Kedu, who was the brother of Meher Chuchak's wife, the uncle. Okay, so he kept telling that brother-in-law, there is something wrong going on between Heer and Ranja. I will prove it to you, So he never used to give so much of importance to his brother-in-law. He was like, he's a little crooked fellow, you should not listen to him. He kept on telling him that, "You think these people are not meeting outside? I will one day give you, proof for this." Actually, both Heer and Ranja, every day they would have their meetings in the forest, a little inside, where nobody would see them. And every day, Heer would prepare something really nice for Ranja and take it to him to the forest. So one day, Kaidu decided that I'm going to find out some way to prove this to my brother-in-law. So he disguises himself as a beggar, goes to the forest, and as alms, he asks, "Can I have something?" So he says, "No, I don't have anything." She doesn't recognize her uncle. He says, "See what you have brought to eat. Can I have a little of that? I'm extremely hungry." And she gives it to him. And this immediately, he takes it to the father, and he shows it. "See, you recognize the chur. It is a traditional dish called chur. And you recognize this, right? This is made by your daughter. This she made for her lover. The servant that we have, Ranja, that is her lover. Can you believe that? You are from such a big family. This is what your daughter is doing. I told you, you did not believe me, right? Now you see what she is doing. But this is the proof." Even then, Meher Chuchak was not convinced. He was a little upset, of course. And he decided to see for himself whether this is true. And one day, he sneaked his way behind his daughter, and went to the forest and he witnessed their meeting. They were together for a very long time and he just couldn't contain his anger. He was very, very upset. That day he comes home, he just sends word to his known people and makes sure that within a week a proposal comes for Heer, and she just overnight gets her married. She doesn't have any choice. He was sent out of job. Ranja was dismissed from his job, and Heer was married to another man in another city. Now, completely grief-stricken, completely heartbroken, Ranja starts wandering in all different places. He just travels, and then he finds a jogi, a yogi or a jogi. I think Punjabi they use the word jogi, and he found this person, and the cult that he had, their speciality was they would pierce ears. They would pierce the ears if you had to be part of his clan, and he actually spent a long time talking to Ranja, and then he found out that he was very, very disappointed with life, but he was a very, very nice person, and he was very noble, and he deserved to be part of the clan, and he allows him in. And from that day he starts he became a jogi, a full-fledged, he used to travel with the group and all those things. There was this certain place, a certain garden, Kala Bagh was the name of the garden, where all these jogis used to sit, and they used to chant their prayers and all those things. So one day, Heer's sister-in-law, whose name was Sehti, she happens to see this jogi sitting and singing this very handsome, like he always had that charm of his own to actually pull people towards him. Sehti actually noticed him and went home and told this to her sister-in-law, who was none other than Heer. And Heer had actually confided a lot of her past with her sister-in-law, because she would understand. She herself was in love with a person called Murad, and because of her parents' pressure, she was not able to marry him. So she would understand her sister-in-law's plight, and she also knew about her brother, who was Heer's husband, who was never loving towards Heer, and she was not happy in this marriage at all. So she always had her sympathy for her sister-in-law, and they both speak and they talk about this jogi, and it so happens that he starts going to different houses they would go and sing and play his flute and all that, and he lands up at the same house, Heer's house, one day, and asks for alms. So first the sister-in-law comes out, and then something happens, and then Heer comes out, and immediately they recognize each other, and then they continue their love story from there. So with the sister-in-law's help, they started meeting up, in the same room where Sehti was there, and this Heer used to live. Whenever the husband goes out or something, they would arrange for secret meetings for both these couples. So they would both happily meet for quite a long time. They continued these meetings. And one day, they were, they came to know that slowly people are talking about it. Somebody has, come to know of it, and they decide to elope. They both, as couples, they decide to elope. They run away from the palace. It was actually more of a person, more like a king. So it was a palatial house, and they run away from there to get caught in a nearby forest. The sister-in-law and Murad actually, they get away.
Okay.
But Heer and Ranja get caught, and they get brought to the king, where the king, declares a punishment, and Heer's actual husband, he says that she cheated me and she deserves a really bad punishment and all those things. And they take away Heer and punish Ranja. And Ranja, with all his might, he prayed to Allah, and he he started playing his flute, singing and all, and he prayed to Allah very, very sincerely that you should, this husband, he should be punished, and the king also should be punished. This town should suffer for what they are doing to me and Heer. We are true, our love is so true and pure. Why are they doing this to us? So because of his grief, they say that the town actually started, facing a lot of something like calamities. Yeah, lot of natural calamities, drought, flood, and all those things happened. I think forest fires also happened, and and then somehow somebody tells the king that we feel this is the wrath of what you have done to Ranja. So bring them back together. And then it so happens that the king himself decides that they have to be reunited. They bring them back, and then when they ask them, both of them, they say that we want to go back to our village, our place where where we want to have a proper marriage with the consent of our parents. So of course Ranja's sister-in-laws are very happy when they come to know of the news, and they are actually proud of their brother-in-law, and they're very happy to have Heer as their sister-in-law. But that was not the case with Heer's parents. They pretended as if they are perfectly fine with the marriage, but on the day of the marriage, when the Bharat had started from Ranja's home, before the Bharat could reach Heer's house, her own uncle poisons her with a laddu, a sweet. Ranja comes to find his bride's dead body with the broken sweet next to her, and they say that he immediately ate the other half and he gave up his life just next to his loved one. A very, very tragic end, and the tombs of these two are still there it's actually, this part of Punjab is now in Pakistan. So it's a very, very tragic love story, very similar to, I think, Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah,
also.
you have so many very
stories.
heartrending and so futile, isn't it? Pointless killing.
Pointless for her own uncle keeping his own dignity above
the love they had for
love
each other.
And his own daughter's life. They gave more importance to their position in the society and the societal norms. How futile, like you said.
Yes, it's
So
such a beautiful story.
A very tragic end, though. I think all
they were united in death.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
it's a very tragic way of looking at it,
But I think the mention of Heer Ranja actually comes in so many ways. We have from maybe us, we hardly knew the details of this story,
yes,
but we have heard the name and so many times.
So many songs have been sung, so many poems have been written. It's a very beautiful love story.
Yes.
That was a very nice story, Deepti.
That was mine, and we move on to another slightly different, way of showing love. A very different love story, yes, from Shrija. So Shrija, go ahead.
So this is how the story I've chosen for you goes. This one's called The Demon Lover. So yes, very different from this beautiful story that you just heard about two lovelorn hearts who are not able to get together. This story runs on similar lines, but the narrative is a little different. So it's set during a very, very difficult times, during World War II, when the bombings were happening and the Germans were creating havoc. And when all this was happening here in London, we have the protagonist of the story, Mrs. Drover, her full name being Catherine Drover. So she has come to London, to her old house, to collect whatever she could take from there, because now they had abandoned the house. They couldn't stay there because of the bombings and the war. So she was taking her stuff back to her family, and she had come to collect things that she needed from her old house. So the story begins there, and Mrs. Drover, a pretty woman, comes in. She opens her door and she gets in, and she feels a little nostalgic. Now, this is a story that I am narrating to you from memory, so Perhaps some details have been left out, but yes, I have the gist of the story here for you, and I hope you enjoy it. So, to get back to my story. So, she looks around and she finds a lot of things which meant a lot to her. And it's sad, isn't it, when you have to leave your home, even if it is to go to another home or to your family, yet to leave them behind in the old building is always a very a poignant moment. So, she looks around and starts collecting things. Now, just as she decides to move ahead into the living room, she finds this envelope on the floor. So it's been pushed through the letterbox or underneath the door. I don't remember that bit, but she finds a letter there lying there for her. So she picks the envelope up and she finds that there's no address on it. No to address, no from address, just a blank envelope with something inside. A piece of paper inside. So she's very curious, and somehow when she picks it up, there's this foreboding that she feels, and she sits down and she pulls out the letter. She finds there's a letter inside the envelope, and when she looks at the letter, her hand starts trembling, her blood turns cold, because it happens to be a letter from her old lover. And the letter tells her that you have to meet me at this particular time at a usual place. So one would think, why would such a letter create such a problem? But this was from someone who she believed had died long, long ago in the war. And this particular letter brings back memories, and she thinks about the times that they had shared together, she and her ex-lover, and the lovely times they had spent together. And at the end, when he had left for the war, she had promised him that she would be waiting for him to get back. So later on, when she got to know that he had passed away, she had moved on. She hadn't waited because he was no more. Now this letter said something else. Who had written this letter to her? She was shocked, she was worried, and the whole idea of shifting out things from her house and going back terrified her. Now she just wanted to get out of the house because she didn't know if somebody was playing a joke on her. She didn't know what it was. And so she quickly went up and picked up as many things as she could, not in the leisurely way that she had planned to do it. She rushed up and picked up stuff from her bedrooms, and whatever little things she had, bundled them into bags and had a quick look around. She just wanted to get out of the house because the memories were killing her, and she didn't know what this was. And after taking everything, she put everything into a bag and she looked at the time. There was still time. The letter had told her a particular time, that this is the time that I want you to meet me, and she was out before that. So she said, no, I have to get home before this, she was really worried and scared. And also, as she has these mixed feelings, she's guilty because she knows that she didn't really wait for her lover, all that they had shared had just changed when he had gone to war. Now she was a married woman, she had a family of her own, she was living happily. So somewhere that hurt, because that was the kind of passionate love that they had shared when they were together. So she rushes out of the house, and her hand is trembling when she's locking her door, and she quickly locks the door and rushes and hails the first taxi that she sees. She just wants to get out, and the taxi stops and she shoves her bags inside of whatever little she had collected, and she gets in and she heaves a sigh of relief. When the taxi starts moving, she looks back at her house and she doesn't see anybody there. She looks to see if someone's waiting for her there. And she turns back and the taxi speeds away. Now, as the taxi speeds away, suddenly she realizes the taxi is moving with unnecessary speed. It was very fast. And, she slowly gets a hold of her bearings and she wonders, what is this? And then she looks at the rearview mirror, and the driver and her eyes, they meet. And when she sees who it is, she lets out a scream of terror. She's screaming in terror, and you can guess who that possibly was. But the doors refused to open and the car sped away with a screaming Mrs. Drover inside. And that's the end of The Demon Lover by Elizabeth Bowen. So this is also a love story.
Yeah.
So you don't know if she's been taken away to be reunited with her lover, and her lover is no more. So who is this lover? You know, yes. And it is obviously someone from her past. So there's a supernatural element which adds so much, and somehow this part...
Was it actually supernatural, or was it?
Yes.
He had been saved in some way.
Exactly.
Everything is a question
We don't
mark.
know, but the fact
Just
is
leaves
that...
the reader with a...
and she goes helpless. The very person she wanted to run away from took her away. And is it a person or not? There's so much left to, conjecture. And also, it also brings to mind, had she really been a faithful lover? You know, so
Was
many
there anything
questions.
else?
Was there
Yes.
anything else? There's so much left
Was
to.
there some kind of revenge, or we
Yes.
don't know? Like it is
Absolutely.
actually a lot of things which can happen after this. If it was a series, I'm sure a lot of episodes.
There would be a lot. I'm sure. I mean, if
a season 2.
yeah.
for
No,
this.
any of you who are really interested could get all the details by going back to the story. You can always pick it up and read. I used to love this part, and I remember when I read it many times, but I've felt the same goosebumps when I reached that last bit where she's packing her bag and trying to get out fast before time, you know.
And where the envelope came from.
Yes.
And all those things.
All
you know,
those little
like-
details, and somehow when you've read the story 2 or 3 times, you wonder why hadn't she left a little earlier and got into another taxi. You know, these are the questions that come to mind.
Actually.
But it is a love story still, so that's the reason why.
Yeah,
that
because
was
the love has so many angles.
so many angles. You know, this is the darker side of love, and you have the lighter side of love, and I suppose the happier side of love, brighter side of love.
You want to see more shades of love? Read Love Shots by Shrija Mohandas.
Yes.
Yes,
Love
that's a
stories
very interesting take on love as well.
Yeah, do read that.
Yeah,
and
we will put up the description.
yeah, we'll share the
and,
link. Yeah, thanks for
below.
reminding them, Deepthi. So
Yes.
those are our stories for the Valentine month.
One more thing I wanted to mention about the Heer Ranja story is apparently Chenab River started flowing outside after their death, you know. The way they have shown how nature also, you know, participates in that grief and that eternal love. It was so pure a love that Chenab River actually distanced from Punjab from there. It started flowing from the outside, you know.
So beautiful. No, I mean, it's
So
a very poetic way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And also, this isn't the first. When you think of all these love stories, so many where people have been pointlessly killed, which is happening even now.
Yes.
And for no reason.
Salim and Anarkali story is
yes.
another one we'll surely share it.
With you. And that, of course, has many different levels as well. But
Yes.
certain things where, you know, the differences in society or classes don't allow you to.
And our Indian epics, for that matter, they're all very, very modern. As we have always talked about in our stories, we've always been ahead of our times, and
yes, and everything is presented. You know,
so
weaknesses.
many shades. So
there's
as human beings, it can happen to anybody. You know, different shades of love.
Exactly, and different aspects to people. So you have the dark and the light, and which is what we try to do when we bring our stories to you, to present the same theme in different ways. There's so many different ways of looking at love.
And when our listeners listen, I'm sure they all have, just like reading a book, you know.
Exactly.
When each one listens to the story, they have a different memory or some thought that comes to their mind, which is totally different for each listener. I feel.
Exactly.
So we hope you enjoy our stories just as much as we do narrating them.
Yeah, and let's hope you go ahead and read more, because that's the whole idea of this storytelling platform.
And a space for adults, you know, that's what many of our friends also mentioned.
Yes.
That the most exciting part about Sugar and Spice is that it's not just like storytelling for children. Even adults enjoy stories, you know.
Yeah, we love
that's
stories.
What we're all about.
And go ahead and read a lot more. Give us, as usual, share your suggestions, your feedback. We'd love to listen to you.
Very soon, we'll interact with you all as much. Very, very soon we are going to come up with an announcement about that as well. So
we have put it on hold for a while, but we will be getting back to that. So, and we'll be back with more stories with lesser gaps.
Yes. And please do share, like Shrija said, all your comments and feedbacks. So until we meet again, it's bye-bye from Sugar
and Spice. Love you all.
Love you all. Bye-bye.